go, Bill.
Yes, and how are you? All right.
We're going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors to order. I'd ask you to please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Madam Chair,
Oh, yes, Mr. Melton.
before we begin, please let me know I'm joining remotely. My address, I'm at 279 Ocean Boulevard East, Holden Beach, North Carolina, 28462.
Okay, thank you. Can you all hear him? Yes. Okay, all right.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Are there any requests to postpone agenda items, additions, deletions, or changes in the order of presentation? All right.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Melton, we just moved to approve the agenda. Mr. Melton? Bridget?
Yes, I voted. I'm sorry, I voted aye. I'm still here.
Okay, all right.
Thank
All
you.
right, this will bring us to our first public comment period. This is the first of two comment periods. We invite members of the public to share their thoughts on the matters and issues that are germane to county business. If you are here to speak on an item on tonight's agenda that is having a public hearing, of which I believe there are three tonight, adoption of the long-range comprehensive plan, golf cart and utility vehicle operation ordinance, and an amendment and reenactment of some conservation subdivisions in the subdivision ordinance. Those are the public hearings. You must wait and share your thoughts during the public hearing on each specific item. This is not a forum for political campaigning, promoting a business, or personal attacks. Please keep your comments focused on the issues and subject matter over which this board has responsibility, and keep your comments to 3 minutes if you are speaking as an individual, and 5 minutes if you are representing a group, identifying the group at the beginning of your comments. So that staff may get the name and address correct in the minutes, please sign in and state your name and address for the record. The public comment period is now open. Sign-in sheet is down there on the corner of the table where it always is.
Hey, good evening.
Good
My name
evening.
is Jesse Peterson.
Your address, just generally.
3812 Millmount Drive. I live in Westlake at Millmount.
Great, thank you. Just keep on rolling.
Go ahead.
Well, I want to start by stating I do not believe the government should be able to tell a citizen whether they can or cannot smoke cigarettes unless it puts the health in jeopardy of others in harm, specifically children. I'm going to ask a rhetorical question, and I don't want to answer, obviously, but as public servants, can you guys think of anything more important that you guys do than make decisions to protect our children? So with that being said, I would like to ask the board to ban smoking of cigarettes at Fighting Creek Park and all other youth athletic facilities in Powhatan.
You there?
I've coached for the past few seasons for Powhatan Fury, YMCA basketball, and Powhatan Little League, and I've always been obviously annoyed at the smoking. The straw that broke my back was this. One of the siblings of one of the kids that I coach has some medical issues, and it's impossible literally for them to come and watch our game without being in the presence of secondhand smoke. I took pictures to show the areas in the smoking facilities at Fighting Creek Park, and I measured off proximities, but then I thought if I need to tell you guys that, I think you guys are in need of a field trip. And I know Mr. Melton, he can hear me. I know he's a really good grandpa. He's out there watching his boys and grandkids all the time out there, so I'm sure that's something that he can attest to.
I can hear you.
Yeah. In addition, I did a lot of research, but me sitting up here telling you secondhand smoke is bad for our kids is like me telling you the obvious. You can look at your phone and see the CDC shows that kids who are exposed to secondhand smoke are 20 to 30% more likely to develop lung cancer in their life. they're basically guaranteed to have respiratory issues, especially in an endurance setting when your lungs are already maxing out, like they are in many of these soccer games and baseball games. You don't need me to tell you that if a child, a small infant like the one on our baseball team, is exposed to secondhand smoke just a minute minute of time, it increases their risk of sudden infant death syndrome. You guys could pull out your phones and your laptops and in 10 minutes fill out an entire legal pad for the just negative ramifications to our children and us of secondhand smoke. You don't need me to tell you that I contacted all the local counties. Chesterfield County, you think they let smoking by their athletic facilities? Absolutely not. Mechanicsville, Hanover, they literally laughed at me when I asked if I could smoke by their fields. Tuckahoe, you know, that facility right off of 295 that we sometimes compete with to have tournaments like Fighting Creek Park? Not a chance. Huge proximity away from the field. The only municipality around the area where they allow smoking within a close proximity to kids, the inner city of Richmond. I don't think that the county of Powhatan should be on that kind of par. No offense to them, but this is God's country out here. It's beautiful out here. We're raising families, and we're trying to keep our kids safe. So I know we're at my time. So with that in closing, I would like to ask the board to ban smoking, obviously at Fighting Creek Park and all youth facilities. But an immediate solution is to change the designated smoking areas. And that is, I don't know if, once again, if you guys take a field trip and you'll be able to see it, it's only a mile away, way to the back of the outfields or somewhere where our children are not forced to inhale secondhand smoke 2 to 3 times a week during our practices. So thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. Let me just insert here for a quick minute. We'll continue with the public comment period, but I wanted to acknowledge that Supervisor Tucker, myself, and Supervisor Williams are present. Mr. Melton told you he's calling in from a remote location, and Mr. Nordvig had hoped he would be able to call in, but he is unable to do so tonight, so Mr. Nordvig is absent from the meeting this evening and will not be calling in. So let the record reflect that. Thank you. So we'll pick back up with the public comment period. If anybody else would like to make a comment, please come down now. Remembering that it's not hold comments for the public hearing if it has one.
My name is Victoria Rano, 6430 Blenheim Road in Powhatan, and I would like to address the public notice that goes out to the citizens. I went to numerous amounts of localities and asked the citizens if they knew about the information that was going on regarding the changes of zoning, regarding the comprehensive plan, regarding issues that were going on in the county, and there really was a gap between what people realized was happening in the county, and I think that's a problem. I mean, we get the paper once a week, and we do have Facebook pages, but I skimmed over the Facebook pages like the Powhatan Forum and other little pages that we have, and that doesn't seem to be a priority as far as getting the word out to the citizens. And obviously, I can't stand everywhere and tell people. So I think there needs to be a plan to be able to get this information disseminated. I think we're doing a disjustice, and I think we're assuming that people don't care. And that is not what I'm finding. I'm finding that people are concerned. Yes, they're busy. Yes, they're splitting up and going in different areas, but they want the information. So I would like to ask if we could figure out a way to get information out about these meetings and the planning and the zoning and things that are actually happening. If you go to the webpage, you're directed to go there by some of these Facebook pages and such, and I can't find things on there. I've called Andrew a couple times asking where to find certain things because it's not an easy site to manipulate. And if we want to engage the community, we have to make it easier. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All righty. Seeing none, we'll close this public comment period. There is one later in the evening. Takes us to our consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty. We have several appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. and the first of which are three reappointments to the Economic Development Authority. It is Tim Benusa, Russ Holland, and John Watkins. Two are from Mr. Williams' district, and one is from my district. So I will make a motion, if it's okay with you gentlemen, to reappoint all three to the Economic Development Authority.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One, reappointment to the Powhatan County, Powhatan Community Policy and Management Team, Phoebe Wright. And Phoebe is a long-serving member of this committee. Phoebe, in her professional capacity for the Department of Social Services, is one of the go-tos for the whole state. She really is a gem that we have here in Powhatan, and I highly recommend that we reappoint her to this important team.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And finally, Miss Carolyn Mayo. On
That's a
Rid-
district, Madam Chair, that's a District 4. She's done a wonderful job for us for many years. She brings a good balance to the group, and I'd like to recommend approval.
Yes,
Second
sir.
that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. We do have some upcoming appointments. We'll keep you posted on those. Now, this brings us to a proclamation recognizing one of our Eagle Scouts. So, Colton, if you and your family would like to come up, Mr. Williams will handle this, or you're welcome to move around and take pictures, whatever you want to do. Or give us the camera and we'll take a picture of you.
I'd like to make a comment before I read the proclamation. The first time I met this young man was over in my kitchen, and he was about half the size as he is today. If you notice, I'm looking up to him. That's what happens in the Boy Scouts. They grow up and become men. Well done, buddy. This is a proclamation recognizing Colton Patrick Vosberg for achieving Eagle Scout rank. Whereas scouting for both boys and girls has been an integral part of our community, as well as positive influence for many years, and whereas the Eagle rank is the highest rank in scouting and is obtained by earning 21 merit badges and implementing skills in a troop leadership position. And whereas, in addition, the Eagle candidate must plan, develop, and direct a major community service project through its entire completion. And whereas on March 17, 2019, Scout Colton Patrick Vosberg, member of Boy Scouts of America, Troop 832, successfully completed all requirements for achieving Scouting's Eagle rank. And whereas in earning his Eagle rank, Scout Colton Patrick Vosberg earned a total of 29 merit badges, attended 3 high adventure bases, and was recognized for 13 awards and achievements. And whereas for his Eagle project, Scout Colton Patrick Vosberg constructed an outdoor educational amphitheater in Powhatan State Park, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors hereby commends and congratulates Eagle Scout Colton Patrick Vosberg on this outstanding accomplishment, extends its deepest appreciation for all of his dedicated work, and wishes him the best in all of his future endeavors. I make this as motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
Yes, and all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Bravo.
Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I guess so. Just a quick little blurb. So thank you very much for having me up here and for congratulating me. As Mr. Williams said, my name is Colton Vosberg, and I began my scouting journey when I was 8 years old. So it's been 10 years in the making. Mr. Williams, like he has said, I was a wee little boy back in the day when I came to his kitchen and he helped me as part of my citizenship in the community merit badge. That is something I still remember to this day. We went out into his backyard and found salamanders and frogs, something I hold dear in my memory.
Something every good citizen needs to be able to do.
Finally, my Eagle rank was completed last February at Powhatan State Park, as Mr. Williams stated, where I did make a small educational amphitheater where everyone in the Powhatan County can visit, as well as surrounding areas. It's for the park to do their nature programs, because before they were doing it in the parking lot where the sun was just beating down on them. So I moved the area back into the woods. I set up benches, a stage, and a fire pit where they can host and conduct their nature programs. I would also like to kind of recognize 10 of my fellow classmates who I graduated with in the class of 2019 that also received the rank of Eagle. 9 of them, along with myself, being from Troop 832. So I've never been so proud to say that I have made it this far, to be wearing my Eagle cords crossing the stage, and to be standing in front of you today wearing my Eagle Scout memorabilia and my uniform to be recognized. And so in final, I'd like to thank Mr. Williams, my Troop 832, and my parents for my success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All righty. This takes us now to Proclamation 2019-19, and we have a very special presenter that we would like to ask to come to the podium to read this.
This is a proclamation in memory of Christopher Kelly Rapp, July 22nd, 1964 to May 31st, 2019. Whereas, the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors, on behalf of all Powhatan County residents, acknowledges the deep sadness felt by the members of our community at the tragic loss of Christopher Kelly Rapp in Virginia Beach, Virginia, on May 31st, 2019. And whereas Christopher was not only a respected member of our community, he also served as the Public Works Director for Powhatan County from 2007 to 2015. And whereas during his tenure at Powhatan County, Christopher completed many projects that have had a tremendous impact on the community, including the Huguenot Public Safety Building, Fighting Creek Park Phase 2, the Fighting Creek Park Trail, and the playground in Fighting Creek Park. And whereas Christopher dedicated his life to serving the public through his knowledge and education as a professional engineer. And whereas the Board of Supervisors wishes to acknowledge Christopher Rapp's contributions to the community through dedicating the Fighting Creek Park Playground to Christopher and the installation of a memorial bench at the park to memorialize Christopher, his work, and his character. And whereas the Board of Supervisors expresses great sympathy and also immense gratitude to the family of Christopher Rapp for his life, his work, the improvements he made to the community, and the many lives he touched. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes and remembers Christopher Kelly Rapp for making Powhatan a better place through his contributions and relationships.
I move that we approve this proclamation as presented.
Yes. All in favor? All, yeah, aye.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Voorhees?
Madam Chairman, just a couple of words. I said something at the memorial service held here in Powhatan a week ago, Friday, that I wanted to just leave with our audience and that is that we're here remembering exactly what Chris would want us to do, which is his legacy. And that's really the big goal for us as public servants, is to leave that legacy and make the community a better place. And he did that. And, it's evidenced by us coming together tonight to remember some very specific things that he did. We also saw that at the memorial service. We had other local government leaders. Andy Romanelli from Stafford County was at the memorial service, remembering the work he did there. And then just this past Thursday in Virginia Beach, one of the deputy city managers from Virginia Beach came to speak with us, and we held a brief remembrance ceremony there, where his name was read with the 11 others, and we shared a moment of silence to reflect on the legacy left by all the victims. And so I just wanted to say that, as sad as we all are, leaving that legacy is our goal, and Chris was really great at doing that, and we will feel his presence for many, many years to come.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right.
That's no expectation that y'all stay for the next 3 hours.
Thank you.
And for the audience, in that resolution, we'll be placing a memorial bench at the playground area as soon as it comes in, and we're looking forward to having that physical, lasting memorialization at the park. We'll be sure to publicize that when it's delivered.
And we'll certainly contact his wife. Yes, all right, great. Okay, this takes us into old business. Item 10A, Resolution 2019-19, approving the secondary system construction budget. I believe Mr. Chardine's going to take this one.
Yep. Good evening, board members. So I believe you considered this at the last meeting and deferred. We considered some potential projects for adding to it, because as you know, with some of the previous projects on this plan getting completed or nearing completion and rolling off, you have the opportunity to put some other projects toward it to start building funding for future years. But after some consideration, staff, we would recommend, unless you feel otherwise, just now adopting it as is, and then taking the next year to consider what projects we do want to put on here. One thing that's come up since we started this process was VDOT is kicking off a new study, an update to the Route 60 plan that spans from our border with Chesterfield all the way to Amherst County, looking at all the intersections and which ones will become critical in future years. So that plan will come out with a number of potential solutions and designs for intersections along Route 60 in Powhatan. Those might lend themselves well to this, but they won't be done in time for this. So again, the amount of funding we get wouldn't be enough to fund any of these projects within the next year. So there's necessarily no rush. Whether you wait a year or two to put something on there, it would still be funded down the road anyways. So again, unless you feel otherwise, we would just recommend adopting it as is. Some of these projects will roll off next year, and then we can work with you and the public to decide which ones would be the highest priority for the 6-year plan going forward.
Okay, just one second. Mr. Melton, can you hear?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm fine with the recommendation from staff.
Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Williams?
Motion to approve that 6-year.
Seconded.
All righty, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Takes us on to 10B, approval of Parks and Recreation Field Prioritization Policy. Mrs. Carter, Ms. Carter? Page 113.
Good evening. This, there was a resolution that was introduced in April, and it had to do with reducing the number of tournaments and to give priority to local groups for field use. And the chairman actually recommended that we defer that pending further investigation into the long-term effects that would have on the community and the various groups involved. So we have met with several of the groups, and we developed a policy for prioritizing the field use that would be more equitable to the local groups, but still allow us to put tournaments in and encourage the sports tourism. So the policy is attached to the, in your packet. And it just outlines that we will get the local groups to submit their schedules for the year, and they'll have specific deadlines for when they have to do that. And then after we receive all of their schedules, then we will back schedule all of the tournaments in for weekends that they're not using the facilities.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
Ramona, a couple questions. So has this been seen by the Park and Rec Advisory Group?
Yes, it has, and they did not have any changes or to it.
Okay. And has it been filtered by possibly some of the youth organizations, i.e. softball, baseball, maybe to give them a peek at it before you adopt it, or has that taken place?
We actually met with all of the groups to discuss this, so they are aware of the timeline, because what's critical to the groups is the timelines that they have to submit their schedules, and they were all fine with that. This actually didn't change very much of how we were operating in the past. Yes, all of the groups were okay with this. And we also met with the concessions people because it affected them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All righty. Is there a motion?
I have no belief that this is the last time we will visit this and that we'll modify it in the future. Having said that, I move that we approve it as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty. Thank you. And then, Mrs. Carter, are you going to take the next one as well? Or
believe-
approval of the modifications to the administration office?
I believe, do you want me to take this one?
We can tag team
Go
it,
ahead.
but you've got the details.
You want
I'll kick it off by just saying, so, one observation in our administration building that seems to be kind of consistent across the different functions is that we do encounter residents and folks stopping by to do business who walk through the door and have difficulty figuring out where to go. It's not a particularly welcoming customer service experience. One of the things that can help that is a sort of focal point for entry into the building. When designing some of the capital projects in this building, particularly the restroom project that is funded and being designed to get it bid now for a relatively minor expenditure. The thought was we could move a door and open up a counter that aligns more directly with the front door, which would give us the opportunity to greet folks as they come in and have some signage there and then direct them. And so this is a specific proposal to accomplish that at the price of $7,120. And Ramona can certainly answer a little bit more about the specific work that we need to be done.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? You see a drawing in your packet.
My drawing says accounts payable at the top.
Yes, so I would assume that must mean that instead of accounts payable, that, I got that. I was a little confused too.
Yeah,
I thought it was the far door, but the bathrooms oriented me. So I believe instead of accounts payable, it should be the county administrator's office.
Yeah,
This was an old drawing, an old plan that we
must
had.
have been real old. 'Cause I don't think the county
Right, and the ramp
administration's
that
office
goes
has
down
changed.
to planning that
Yeah,
ramp,
I
so.
figured it out the same way you did.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Melton, do you have any questions?
None at all. I'll have some comments when we get ready to make a motion.
All righty, seeing no other comments?
Well, I'll comment. Based on my comments, they're going to be the same as they were last time. When you come to county administration building, it isn't really complex. You got signs staring you with arrows. You go either left or right. We don't have multi-storied building like we do over in Goochland. Carson and I, and the county attorney, went over there for a meeting not that long ago. There wasn't anybody there to greet us, and we seem to be able to get around pretty well, and I think most people do when they come into the county administration building. So I don't see this as a priority. I didn't when we first discussed it, and I don't now.
Thank you. Any comments? All righty.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
So, I have thought this was something we needed to do. I've been in the county administration building numerous times. I was in there 4 times last week. 3 of the 4 times over there, people came through the front door and were looking both left and right, and they feel a little intimidated, I guess, because they're not sure whether they should go to building or what. And some of them will ask, for the clerk's office, et cetera, and you'll guide them differently. But I think the price that's being charged is fair. It's something I feel like we should have, all along. So I am in favor of this. I'll be glad to make a motion if I can make a motion we approve this if a motion is needed.
Yes, sir. Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
All right, I'll second that. Do we need a roll call on this?
It is not a resolution, just
Okay.
consensus.
Well, then, how about all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There you go. The ayes have it.
Well, hold it. All opposed?
All opposed?
No.
For the record. All
Thank you.
right. New business, presentation on the results of the Parks and Recreation Needs Survey. And I would like to point out, would you like to introduce it? Maybe that's what you're going to do anyway, but other members of your committee?
Yes, on my agenda.
Got it.
So, thank you, Ms. Chair. Members of the board, I want to thank you for giving the Parks and Rec Commission the opportunity to come before you tonight and make a brief presentation on the first part of the needs assessment that has been completed. Frank Flanagan is here as immediate past chair of the commission. Ms. Carter sits on the commission in a non-voting oversight role and does it very well, and we're very appreciative of her time. And I don't think I have overlooked anyone, so okay, that's not me. So I'll get right into it. Michael Svets could not be here this evening due to our changing schedule for us being here tonight. He very much wanted to be here and sends his regrets. I spoke to him earlier today, and he was stuck in the desert of Arizona. The assessment was broken into several different groups. A focus group was assembled to give input. A series of an online survey was put out for respondents, and then a statistically valid survey was also completed. So there were 3 aspects to this study that were completed, and then as a kind of falling out from that was a prioritized community needs, and then kind of the next steps. So I'm going to. So the first part of this is the focus group input, and there were a series of themes that came out of the focus group: leadership, consistent maintenance, increasing support of the amenities we have, prioritizing local needs over out-of-county needs, tournaments and other things, focusing on an increase in funding for Parks and Rec being desired, and providing additional programs. There's been an identified need for that. The focus group themes, they were put into specific desires were expressed for expansion of park amenities. These included the items you see up there. Some of those that jump out, pickleball has become very big, and it's catching on in Powhatan very quickly. Another thing that jumped out is target shooting, archery, shooting range, that caught us by surprise, and you'll see that as a common theme kind of generating through this study as we go. Another one is trails, trails, trails. And Michael asked me to convey to you that this is a common theme in assessments and studies that they are doing around the country. It seems like there is a huge appetite for increasing the availability of trails, the quantity and the accessibility, and then increasing awareness of the amenities that are available. So that focus group helped create the questions that then fell out into the online study and the statistical study survey that was completed. So the online survey. This was administered by SurveyMonkey in May, and I want to take a moment and tell you about the group that put this study together, just so you understand these various surveys that were put out. They were done by a group that's got a hefty resume. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit. ETC is the company that did this. Results of their surveys have produced over $2.5 billion in Parks and Rec investments around the country in their career. In the last 80 bond referendums that have gone out that were based on studies that they had completed, all 80 of them have been approved. So they have a very lofty success rate when I look at it. So the online survey, it was developed in partnership with the county, and a total of 540 people completed the survey. This represented a population of about 2,071 people in the county, and this is considered a very strong response rate. They said that they don't often see responses percentage-wise this high. From that study, they found that there was a willingness to support additional funding going to Parks and Rec programs. What you see in front of you on the screen is the willingness to support increases in funding being directed toward Parks and Rec programs. And it was left as an open-ended question in the survey, but the respondents were given the benefit of seeing what the impact on individual households would be based on this increase. For instance, a 1 cent increase would equal about $15 annually per household. So it was an informed impact.
Could I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I reading this correctly to see that 88% of the citizens that responded to the survey are in favor of spending 1 cent or more on parks and recreation improvements?
Yes, and I'll touch on that again later. So, from the survey, ETC categorized the importance of programs and services you see on the left, and then facilities and amenities on the right. One of the things to point out in this part of it is that this is an online survey. So this is the part of the survey that is going to show some skew if a specific group or their vocal actions are getting the word out about the survey. The ETC then takes and factors that in by putting a specific weighting to this part of the survey, the overall survey, so that it doesn't show up as a pronounced skew in their overall results. And some of that can be seen because of items like soccer fields being so high up on facilities and amenities priorities. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody in the county has a specific focus on soccer fields. goal of, yeah, 350. 300 was the minimum they needed to ballot. And so, again, really very pleased with the if you look at the scatter that's the segmentation of the county. This represents to age distribution was within a they consider that from a survey perspective very strong. Ethnicity. You can see here on the bar charts on the left the ethnicity breakdown of counties. They preserve open space, they protect the environment. 51% satisfaction people receive from Powhatan County contracts. I can't answer it. So, Parks and Rec is 30%. These that show greater than that 30% benchmark. The library being the top, and then the YMCA and the Powhatan Middle School kind of being at the bottom of that list. Being above 30% though still. So there is some agreement on the condition of the Parks and Recs facilities. The ways that people learn about Parks and Rec facilities. This is an interesting one. They weren't expecting this. The number one way is people learn by friends and neighbors, and number two is the newspaper. So the Powhatan Today is a very important means of communication for Parks and Recs related items. The most preferred source of information.
There you go.
Newspaper articles. And Michael asked me to convey that was surprising to them, but it's also very reliable.
It's
So
It's
it is. The next one there was the website. That was expected. Social media, that was expected. But a key finding here is that friends, neighbors, phone texting, things, they're still heavy, but they're not the greatest in terms of weighting. So, utilization. So, this is a breakout of people who have said they've used Parks and Recs facilities in the last 12 months. 49% of respondents have gone to the library, which I think will surprise some people, and other people will go, yeah, I get that. Facility needs. These breakouts show what's important to people, what's being unmet by them, and just because items on here are lower in percentages, it doesn't mean that they are insignificant or unimportant. It just means that it may be something that's age-specific, specific sport, independent. So, but it is skewed again towards walking and biking trails on the top. And then if you look down, you're going to see that shooting range popping up. One more time. So we're right in there. The number of households whose needs are not being met or are being met less than 50%. Again, there's a big contingent of people who feel like there aren't enough walking trails, biking trails, and shooting ranges. Shooting ranges is, again, a generic envelope. It does include archery underneath of that and some other things. And then service needs. What is most important to households? Fitness, wellness, target shooting, special events, those are all skewed at the top and show up strongly. And then the household's needs, I feel like that's a redundant, I'm going to skip that. That's a little bit of a redundancy. So the special event concepts, this is households who would be most interested in special event type of things. Food events is the one that people weighted most heavily. I guess that just supports we all like to gather around food. Community support, the level of support that could be taken to improve various things. There's a lot of willingness to support repair and maintenance of our existing facilities, which is important. There's also willingness to support improved access to things like restroom facilities, expanding trails or trail loops on the existing trails, things of that nature. Actions that people are most willing to fund. Again, number one up there, and Michael asked me to convey this to you, the willingness to support maintenance by a county is very important. He said that's not always the case. Sometimes people get focused on new. So he said it's a really good sign that Powhatan County is also focused on being willing to maintain what we have. And then maximum amount of additional tax rate that respondents would support for various types of improvements. Again, this ties back to the one on the right there, the green bar graph. You summed it up pretty well, the percentage that would be willing to kind of handle a 3 cent or less, but 78% overall being willing to look at a 1 cent increase is significant. So This is just a prioritization of needs. It's a little bit hard to read, I apologize, but fitness, special events, walking trails. You can see there's a common theme through all of these steps. The draft needs assessment report is going to be provided July 8th. And then phase 2, if funded, would be kicked off July 29th. Phase 2 would include inventory and asset condition rating, level of service analysis. They would look into how much more do we need above what we have, a capital improvement plan that would be a 10-year CIP, and then funding strategies. They wouldn't just tell us what we need and how we could implement it over 10 years. They will provide us with recommendations for how to find funding for it, not just through tax or bond, but also through alternate sources like grants and things of that nature. And then they, after that, would include an implementation strategy. So I'm happy to field any questions or take any notes or things I might be able to get from Michael to report back to you.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So on this slide you got here, the draft assessment report is different from the one you just went through?
So it's the final product of what you have here as a
This is
summary.
interim?
Yeah, because it's going to come in a full report with the backup behind it.
Okay. And when you say phase 2 kickoff, what does kickoff mean?
I think that is really just meant to be that it will be a formal kickoff with the Parks and Rec Commission to establish schedule and milestones, should we be able to go forward with that next step.
Okay. So theoretically in July, we will have the final, no, we'll have a draft. It's still a draft in July.
That's correct. Ramona, do you know if there's a schedule for the final, like converting it? I'd have to ask Michael that question.
May I continue?
Yes, sir.
So sooner or later, you're going to ask us to accept the final assessment report, correct?
I envisioned that we would present you with the
I
final.
mean, to formalize it for us, I want us to go on record saying we accept it, we hear it loud and clear, and then it seems to me we have to do two things. We have to direct the director of Parks and Recreation to make sure that it's operationalizable. It's doable.
There you go.
And secondly, if indeed we accept it and the director says it's doable, then it seems like to me that we have to direct the county administrator to include the assessment in the upcoming budget to get ready to kick off for the next budget. Sooner or later, we've got to transit it from words and nice intentions to on the ground doing something. Is that where we're going with this?
I think that it's actually, we're in the first step of what you're getting at. So the second step, which would be phase 2, will encompass all of those things that would actually become action items, where we have the list of things that are identified specifically as being needs and being doable and having budgets assigned to them, having schedules in a 10-year capital improvement plan,
Okay.
things of that nature. I think
Okay.
right now
It
it's getting
feels-
all of the background.
It feels like I'm trying to go too fast.
Well, I appreciate that personally. We're happy that you're trying to keep it moving.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Yes. Any comments, Mr.
Madam
Williams?
Chair.
Oh, yes, sir.
Just a couple comments. Wonderful data. I really did enjoy reading the report, and I'm looking forward to the July 8th receiving of the needs assessment report. And I feel like Mr. Tucker don't want to go too fast, but I don't want to go too slow, and I really want to understand as I delve into this. Interesting to me that one of the things that was pretty high was boating and fishing areas, and we have 2 state facilities in our county that I had discussed with Harris Lee Ware, just that I think need to be improved somewhat from the state, that will, our citizens use, and of course, other citizens from other localities use. So anyway, great data. I'm looking forward to the next step as we work forward. So thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Chris,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned target ranges, and you said it included archery. What else does it include? In other words, what was the question asked of people to get that response?
It was an open-ended question of things that people would like to see in the county available through the Parks and Rec Department.
Okay, so the open-ended question came back with answers saying, we want archery ranges, we want shooting ranges, and you all collapse those into target shooting?
In two different areas, one it listed as target shooting, the other one listed as shooting/archery range. Personally, having been to one, I know that they are dual purpose.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, the shooting target. That kind of caught me by surprise.
It caught us as a
You
commission
as
by
well,
surprise.
Angie. I
and-
mean, because
Right.
on any given Sunday, if you want to hear people target shooting, they're target shooting in Powhatan County. Come over to my house, you can sit on the deck. Mr. Melton has enjoyed the sounds of a rural county. So, and a lot of times when you say, okay, somebody's going to bring in a shooting range, it meets what? Opposition. So, but anyway, we can have that discussion later when you do the report. I just want to understand, what was the question and how the responses
I'm
came
going
about.
to ask Michael to formalize that response for you so that
All
you
right.
can get a little more detail on that.
Okay.
I think it's a very valid question. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'm sorry, Mrs. Carter, just to follow up, when is he going to be here? The July meeting, the July 29th meeting?
Yes, he plans to be here for the July 29th. Well, he was going to be here and present this report for that meeting, but we bumped it up a little bit. So he's actually going to be here on the 30th and the 31st, and he plans to come in and start looking at the facilities and doing an assessment. But one of the pieces that's critical is funding that next piece, Phase 2, which it's in the CIP that hasn't been approved yet. So that's kind of what we're waiting for to begin the next
Gotcha.
phase.
Okay.
Madam Chair, one final comment.
Yes, sir.
I don't want you to leave here not knowing how much we appreciate you and your committee for the work that you've done. I, like Mr. Melton and Mr. Williams, I think I speak for all of us, delight in data. It helps us make good, solid decisions, and we appreciate you as a citizen stepping up, volunteering your time, and overseeing this process. Thank you, and pass our thank you on to your committee members, please.
I definitely will, Mr. Tucker. I appreciate hearing that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all for your time.
All right. Staying with Parks and Rec, we're going to move on to 11B, and that is the presentation on the no smoking policy.
Good evening. Mr. Tucker had requested that we look, he had a concerned parent contact him, and you heard from Jesse tonight about their concern with smoking in amongst Parks and Rec facilities and fields. So Mr. Tucker had asked us to do some research into surrounding localities and how they handle the problem. And the Parks and Rec coordinator, she's part of, Mary Ann Woodle, she's part of a directors roundtable, which is a group of all of the Parks and Rec directors from around surrounding localities. And she sent out the request to them and asked how they deal with this. And so the summary of what the information that we got back from those localities is in your packet. But what to summarize it is nobody has by ordinance a smoking prohibition in their parks and recs. So the county currently has several smoking policies or policies related to smoking. We have, in our employee handbook, we have no smoking in facilities. County vehicles, there's no smoking in the vehicles. Athletic fields and athletic facilities, there's no smoking inside of buildings, but it is not specific to the fields themselves. We do have posted signs at Fighting Creek Park stating that smoking is allowed in designated areas only. And the county does not have any ordinance related to smoking on county property. The Virginia State Code prohibits smoking in recreational facilities, but defines them as enclosed indoor areas used by the general public and used as a stadium, arena, skating rink. So this is enclosed. It does not address fields and open spaces. So if you look through the summary from all of the localities, several of them have volunteer policies. And there is one locality that is working with the health department to try to develop a policy. They said it'll be several months before they're ready to release that information or what comes out of that policy. But Chesterfield had the most successful one, and theirs was a voluntary program. But what they did was they posted signs on all of their dugouts, their benches, backstops, saying that to smoke in designated areas only. And I agree with Jesse on his comment about our location of our smoking facility. It is not in a great location. And so that was one of our recommendations in the short term, was to move the location of the smoking area and improve it, put some seating in there so people would actually use it. Because we don't want to say you can go smoke way over there where they can't see their kids playing and making it, we don't want to make it too difficult for them to access. So the recommendations were to add and improve designated smoking areas and to put the signage up like Chesterfield has on all of their facilities. So I stand ready to answer any questions.
Yes, sir.
Jeff, would you come to the podium? Sorry about that.
I defer to the sheriff.
I noticed in the report, one of the things that they brought to our attention is that this is a hard policy to enforce. Do you have a feeling about this?
It wouldn't be enforced by us unless it was an underage person smoking or possession of tobacco. So it wouldn't really involve law enforcement. It would be more of an administrative issue for the Parks and Rec Department and the county in general. Obviously, if it became a disorderly conduct type situation or some things got out of control, we would maintain the peace, but we wouldn't. There would be nothing for us to do if an adult is smoking a cigarette at any location. It, to my knowledge, wouldn't be, there'd be no violation of any criminal law that we would be able to enforce.
Thank you very much. May I continue, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Tom, do you have a position here that will help us at all?
Well, I think with the enforcement, we have to decide how aggressive we want to be on enforcement, because technically, if we have a policy that you're not allowed to smoke and you continue to violate the policy, we could theoretically ask somebody to leave and it becomes a trespass, and then the sheriff's department is involved. So we could, if we're willing to escalate it, if at some point we ask the person to leave because they refuse to comply with the no smoking policy, now it's become a trespass situation. So that would be the escalation of it. So it theoretically, at stage 2, could involve the sheriff's department.
May I continue?
Yes, sir.
So Ramona, how would you, with a skeleton crew, enforce?
Well, we can't enforce it unless it's an ordinance, first of all. Just a policy has no enforcement behind us. It has no teeth for us. So, and with our limited personnel that we have, it would be almost impossible for us to.
So at this juncture, your recommended solution is to move the smoking areas away from where they presently are, which I understand in many cases are right behind or underneath the bleachers, further away to protect people who don't want a secondhand smoke.
And to improve them so that people will be motivated to go there instead of standing by the bleachers. So they have, sorry.
Madam Chairman, I think that's all the questions I have at this juncture. I think we're going to end up revisiting this one too.
All right. So I just want to understand the Chesterfield policy a little bit and how that differs, or is that right in line with your recommendation? So, but does Chesterfield still have a designated smoking area? It just says here that it asks citizens to refrain from smoking in areas near children. It doesn't say anything like your recommendation says about designating. Go away from children and please use a designated area.
I don't believe they do. They've put signage on everywhere where they don't want
Right.
people smoking. And so what's left is the spaces where there is no signage.
From my perspective, I think legitimately making it an ordinance and trying the enforcement route is just going to be futile. And so I would think that the best we could do for a ban would be to encourage the right behavior and say, you know, much like the Chesterfield program. I personally am not in favor of making a more comfy area for people to like lounge around and smoke. You know, go sit in your car, go hide behind the gym. I don't know, you know, you don't need to be comfortable doing it. I don't know. So, and it's a maintenance nightmare, isn't it? I mean, it's cleaning out it's disgusting, cleaning out the bins for the smoke, the cigarette butts and.
But it is easier for us if it's designated rather
Right.
than everywhere.
Right, thrown on the ground. Well, I have not been to Fighting Creek Park for a couple of years, and I have not been out to the baseball facility. How many people on a given weekend are out there smoking?
We
So,
have
Madam
had,
Chair,
Yes, sir.
having two grandsons who just finished playing their youth baseball for the season, I was at the park quite frequently, sometimes three times a week. Awareness is going to be the key to me. It will be a difficult policy to enforce. Signs in the restrooms, signs in the dugout, you know, signs on the back of the backstops. I've been to Chesterfield and seen their signage, and it's awareness. And most people, I asked a gentleman recently to go to the designated smoking area, and he was not aware there was one. He was obviously, I think he was a grandparent from, you know, visiting his grandchild. He went on over and smoked a cigarette. Not very inviting. It's a little tube sitting in the middle of a dirt spot, you know, between, you know, the four fields. So maybe some, that I'm not saying put seating all around it and all that, but just some awareness I think would help. Most people are usually accommodating when that takes place. But I agree with yourself that, and others that have said it's going to be tough to enforce. And so I think an awareness program is going to be the best thing. And then if it looks like it doesn't get any better, then you know, board may choose to take some action. But I don't see us doing very much publicity to say, here, please don't, by putting signs in other locations. So I think that'll help a whole lot.
Well, and I was trying to Google if you can smoke at the Diamond. I don't think you can smoke inside the Diamond. And can you smoke in the Diamond anymore? Does anybody know?
I think they have a designated area. I don't know. To be honest,
Right. It's outside of the
so I don't
stadium.
really pay that much attention.
So I mean, if you're not going to
Smoking area
smoke,
at the Diamond.
huh?
They have a designated smoking area at the Diamond.
It's outside of the fence. So I mean, it's basically the parking lot.
Oh,
It's not inside anymore. So I kind of feel like, you know, if you're not going to smoke around consenting adults while you're drinking a beer, maybe you don't need to smoke on a Saturday morning with your grandchildren. I don't really know. What are your thoughts, Mr. Williams?
I'm going to agree with where I think you and Billy are going with this. If it's working in Chesterfield and we have a model that we can implement here in Powhatan County with some certitude of success, let's go for it.
And so where do you think, like, I would like to understand about the designated smoking area. I'm thinking Chesterfield does not have one. So could we maybe clarify that? I don't think we need a designated smoking area. It seems counterintuitive to me to say, you know, please don't smoke around the children, but if you have to, go over here and do it.
Goochland does have designated,
Right.
and I'll clarify with Chesterfield if they have designated or not.
I mean, couldn't they go to their car and smoke? Right, then you can't,
Yeah,
well,
then you
go
can't
quick.
see, yeah.
Ramona, find out from Chesterfield if they do have one or they don't have one, and I think that will help
But at
us.
least start with the signage.
But start with the signage and do the other things that they've said has been very successful with the awareness.
I know there was a private business that's recently gone smoke-free in an outside seating area, and there was much discussion about it, and it was really all about nothing. It's been well-received and not a problem, so I don't know. I don't know. Are y'all, Mr. Melton, are you good with that, sort of follow Chesterfield's and leave the designated area sort of low-key for right now, find out what Chesterfield does, and maybe talk a little bit about it, just a 2-minute update, maybe in July?
That's fine. Reading Goochland's does not allow smoking in their parks without expecting the designated areas. You know, they just have done a good job with their signage. I'm not going down the sword on any of this. I do think that, as a non-smoker, it doesn't bother me, but there are people who have smoked for generations. I go back to my grandfather-in-law, Dad Jay Ransom. He smoked too much, to be honest, but he loved to go watch his great-grandchildren play. And for him to have to walk back to his car and walk back in would have been really difficult with somebody of his age. So, Ramona's made a recommendation that we allow smoking areas. I'm not supporting to add seating by any means, but I don't know each facility like she does and where they could be designated areas. The signage is going to help. I don't think most people really want to upset anyone or have smoke blowing up in the stands on top of somebody. But we don't advertise it or communicate it very well at all. So, enough said.
And you can't smoke at any of the schools. You can't smoke at a high school football game or a high school baseball game.
If it's acceptable to the board, I can bring back possible locations so that you can see where we want, if that's the route we want to take.
Has the Parks and Rec Committee weighed in on this? No.
Great question.
No, they have not.
Are they meeting before the July meeting? No, a little summer break. Well, maybe the Parks and Rec Committee could just sort of send us some informal comments, some personal thoughts with no names or something. I don't know.
I can send them the policy and get feedback and a summary for you.
You know, and we have had one citizen stand up here and very adamantly say, we support a ban. So this is short of a ban, but, because I do understand the enforcement, but enough said for tonight, I think. Thank you very much. All right, that takes us, I'm sorry, Mr. Melton.
Madam Chair, just so I'm clear, so we're going to kind of revisit this thing in July a little bit after some work, or exactly, are we adopting something like Chesterfield's policy or what? I just want to make sure I'm clear.
I think we are not adopting anything. Our recommendation is to proceed along the lines of Chesterfield with the voluntary restriction, limitation, prohibit, whatever, and really to maybe revisit the designated smoking area.
Okay.
And whether
Perfect.
that's something we want to continue to have, and if so, perhaps some better locations for it so it is more away from the children.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, that's 11C, review of the Virginia Administrative Code, solid waste management regulations.
Madam Chairman, this relates to the landfill project in Cumberland County, in that this board has taken some positions on that project showing concern about communication, about truck traffic, about litter cleanup, and related issues. It just so happens that there is a regular process where all administrative rules in the Virginia Administrative Code come up for routine review to update and address changes in the regulatory environment. It is now time for that routine review for the regulations that pertain to solid waste disposal facilities. So in light of the fact that we have taken some positions of concern on evaluating truck traffic and the other types of things that I just mentioned with respect to the Cumberland landfill specifically, the staff has prepared a short two-page set of comments that we would recommend the board authorize the chairman to transmit to DEQ, essentially communicating those issues, saying that, for example, large-scale landfills may generate significant truck traffic, and so perhaps they should not locate landfills of that scale on state highways that are not at least 4 lanes. That fencing that is designed to control litter from being blown sometimes collects litter. We should probably remove it not just from that fencing, but from nearby roadways where these trucks are traveling. That we should look at more carefully at the hours designated for truck traffic so that it doesn't mix with commuter traffic, and that notification is required within a jurisdiction where a landfill is sited, but it's not required in adjacent jurisdictions that are within 5 miles, and that perhaps they should change the rules to do that. So those are the kinds of things we recommend. All these ideas are captured in this letter prepared by planning staff, and we recommend that the board authorize the board chair to transmit this in the form of a letter to DEQ.
All righty, any questions?
Madam Chairman, this is the,
Mr.
I think
Melton,
this is-
Mr. Melton, hold on one second. Let Mr. Tucker go, please.
Okay, fine, thank you, sorry.
That's
thank
all
you,
right.
Bill. This is, this falls under the rubric of closing the barn door after the cattle are out for us, unfortunately. Nonetheless, I think the administration has captured exactly the kind of things that we should be able to do vis-a-vis these kind of proposals. We know a lot of our people are very upset by the Cumberland landfill, and these are the kind of questions, the ones that we have here in our proposal, response to the DEQ, that we should have been allowed to make before the final decision was made on that landfill. So I'd like to propose that we indeed authorize this communication from you to DEQ.
All righty. Mr. Melton, your comments?
Absolutely, I agree with Mr. Tucker. The second bullet point is the one I want to zone in on, and I'm like Mr. Tucker, it's a little bit, cart before the horse, so to speak. It says, to better enable the Department of Environmental Quality and the Department of Transportation to evaluate the potential impacts of transportation safety and infrastructure, developers should be required to submit a detailed traffic study and analyze transportation-related impacts a proposed facility will have on a regional transportation network. And that's what we've been saying all along, that if VDOT looks at that as site-specific, that's not what we're asking. And it further goes in that paragraph and talks more about what Ted elaborated. So I think we need to be very direct in our comments, and I'm all for this also. So hopefully we'll open some eyes here. Thank you.
Mr. Williams, comment?
I'm fine with this since it addresses what I drafted for Senator Sturtevant last year to introduce a bill to address the requirement, or to address the needful requirement to have a traffic impact analysis in conjunction with any mega landfill where you have, in this case, 500 trucks per day, 500 heavy trucks, which will lower the level of service on rural Route 60. Now, I'm not through with this yet. I planned on continuing with getting our legislative guys to sponsor legislation again next year to address the issue. And also, I will be meeting with the VDOT commissioner to discuss this issue as well.
All righty. Is there a motion?
I move that we authorize the chairman of the board to send this announcement to DEQ.
Second.
All righty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. All right, this brings us to our public hearings. First one, 2019-06, an ordinance for the adoption of the long-range comprehensive plan. Mr. Pompey.
Thank you. Ordinance O-2019-06 is an ordinance adopting the 2019 Long-Range Comprehensive Plan. Powhatan County's current comprehensive plan was adopted in July of 2010. Per state law, the document must be regularly reviewed. In late 2016, the Planning Commission began reviewing the 2010 Long-Range Comprehensive Plan and updating its content to reflect changes that have occurred since its adoption 9 years ago. On December 5th, 2017, the Planning Commission forwarded a draft of the document to the Board of Supervisors for further review. In late 2017, the Board of Supervisors began reviewing the draft document, holding a series of workshops to discuss different elements of the plan. On June 25th, 2018, the Board of Supervisors appointed a comprehensive plan work group to continue reviewing the document, which consisted of some board members and a member of the Planning Commission. That group presented its proposed draft at a workshop held by the Board of Supervisors on November 14th, 2018. Since November of last year, the plan has gone through several iterations, and the Board of Supervisors has held multiple public meetings and organized several workshops to continue discussing the document as outlined in the staff report. Differences between the 2010 and draft 2019 plans are listed in the staff report. Most of the high-level concepts from 2010 are reflected in the 2019 document. Again, since the 2010 comprehensive plan was a total rewrite back then, several years and several committees worked to develop that document. This draft 2019 plan is really a refinement of the concepts presented in 2010. The growth areas have been reduced in area, but the recommended land use designations within those growth areas has changed. On the countywide future land use map, more emphasis is placed on directing commercial development to the Route 60 corridor within the two growth areas in that area, the Courthouse Village and the Route 60 corridor east. More photos and additional descriptors have been added to provide a clearer picture of the types of development desired in Powhatan County. As I mentioned, there have been several board-organized workshops to discuss this topic, as well as several public hearings and workshops where members of the public were invited to provide feedback. Open houses were provided in September 2017, January 2019, and June 2019. Most of the comments received at these different public forums focused on four major issues: preserving the county's rural character, managing residential growth, guiding commercial growth along the Route 60 corridor, and planning for effective transportation corridors. An initial public hearing on this document was held on February 25th, 2019, and the latest draft of the plan was last discussed on May 20th, 2019. The comments received at the latest round of open houses, again, which were earlier this month, are included in the agenda packet on pages 349 through 361. Not only do those comments reflect what we received at the meetings themselves, but also emails that were distributed from citizens and property owners prior to the packet being distributed. Two comments included within the agenda packet have specific changes. Landowners requested particular changes to how their properties are designated on the future land use map. At the request of some board members, I distributed to you all some maps today showing what those landowners are requesting, and you also have hard copies at your seats today. The Department of Community Development recommends approval of the 2019 Long Range Comprehensive Plan. Overall, the plan incorporates sound planning principles that, if implemented, will help Powhatan County maintain its rural character by directing growth to designated growth areas, which make up about 5% of the county, where adequate infrastructure exists or is planned.
All right. At this time, we'll go ahead and open up the public comment period.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir?
we're going to have questions of staff at all?
Sure. You want to?
Thank you. So, Andrew, thank you for your presentation. And it was nice to see the calendar and how long the process had gone on in the number of community meetings that took place. You referenced 2 proposed changes based upon requests from citizens as a result of 2 last community meetings. Is that correct?
That's correct. 2 of the comments that we received were very specific in what the citizens were looking for in terms of changes to the plan.
Okay. And will you take us through those 2 proposed changes so that members of the public before the public comment period can see what those are proposed to be? Thank you.
Yeah, so those specific comments address 2 areas in or near the courthouse village. The first area, Area 1 on the map that you all received, is 26 acres adjacent to...
I'm sorry, Mr. Pompey. Is this available for the public anywhere?
Thank you, Andy, for asking that question.
We don't have a hard copy right now, or a copy we can put on the screen. But area number 1 is located adjacent to Powhatan Elementary School and Route 13. It's between Powhatan Elementary School on the south side of Route 13 and the bus garage. It totals 26 acres. In the 2010 plan, it was designated Village Center. In the current draft, it's designated Commerce Center. And the landowner requested that it be returned to Village Center. Area number 2 is on the east side of Rocky Ford Road, just south of Route 13. That property consists of 46 acres. In the 2010 plan, it was designated low-density residential, which is 1 unit per 2 acres. In the current draft, it's designated rural preservation, which is 1 unit per 10 acres. And the landowner has requested rural residential, which is 1 unit per 5 acres.
Mr. Pompey, a couple questions. So on the low-density residential, the piece you just spoke of, that would be a 2-acre average. Is that correct?
Yes, in the 2010 plan, it recommended residential densities of 1 unit per 2 acres.
And that is consistent, pretty consistent with on all sides, all around this property?
Yeah, there's some existing residential subdivisions, Seven Oaks, Fair Pines, that have 2 to 5 acre lots located to the east and west.
So 2 to 5 acre lots surround it, and then it, with the proposal from the request from the landowner was 5 acre, which is, consistent with the 2 to 5 acre surrounding it. Okay, let's go to the next piece, 26.2 acres. You said that was in the courthouse village area over designation, correct?
That's correct. It's located within the Courthouse Village Special Area Plan, one of the 3
Okay.
growth areas.
And on the 2010 plan, it's designated VC, and the applicants, on the current map, it's CC, and the applicant's asking to go, or the app shouldn't be an applicant, landowner's asking to go back to VC.
That's correct.
And in our comprehensive plan document, it clearly spells out that a VC should be 40 acres unless it's in the courthouse village area. So I want that to be known, that it still has to meet the requirements of all the other requirements that are there on open space, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it does allow for a less density than 40 acres. So just wanted people to know that. And your thoughts on the VC in that area?
That particular piece, again, is adjacent to Powhatan Elementary School, Fighting Creek Park, which includes the YMCA, the library, and some other amenities. So it could be a place that could accommodate walkable, mixed-use development, since those amenities are within close proximity.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, I just wanted those kind of brought to the forefront as you open the public hearing. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Well, yes, does anybody else have questions of staff?
I do. Is anybody troubled by this process tonight? Because I am. It seems like we're doing, once again, what we said we weren't going to do, and that was introduce things after we'd had the public meetings. Now, Andrew, you're saying these are comments that you got from 2 landowners, where you changing the density for residential, going to higher density residential. And in case of the Village Town Center, you're going from Commerce Center to Village Town Center. What about the comments from the people that came to the open house and they requested specific things? I don't see them showing up with any map changes or being presented with a map change like we are here, here tonight. So the process is, once again, flawed. The people aren't even seeing what's being considered to be voted on tonight, yet again. It shouldn't be happening. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All righty, so let's go ahead and open up the public comment period, remembering the comments I made at the beginning. Comments?
Victoria Rano, 6430 Blenheim Road. I'm kind of shocked about what I just heard. I thought I was ready for tonight. This is upsetting to me that, again, another change without informing the community of another change. This has been going on for like 6 months that I've been involved in. So my husband and I wrote this letter. We opposed to the zoning changes that are being proposed. The future comprehensive plan is supposed to be business projections of Powhatan to 2015. In many discussions we've had regarding these high-density changes, we have found very few who are in favor. The consensus is to wait for economic opportunity, quality, not quantity, residential. The citizens would rather focus on paying off the large percentages of debt that was put upon us than to compound it with the residential infrastructure changes that you are proposing. Issues that my husband and I are extremely concerned about are as follows. The VDH, DEQ watershed plan. We were shocked to learn that Powhatan's demand will surpass the James River, that what it'll be able to supply for our county. Powhatan County will be facing a deficit of 0.56 million gallons per day by 2030, according to the VDH report. Considerations will have to be made regarding their county's spending for Cobbs Creek or in expanding existing water purchase contracts or developing new infrastructures for these residential neighborhoods. In 2006, the water and sewer systems were constructed for economic development with the intent of bringing revenue to Powhatan. The proposal was made to the taxpayers, and we were assured that it would not be used for residential development. The proposal was sold to us as a way to lessen our tax burden. However, tonight you have changed the future land use map in the final draft comprehensive plan with residential along 60, not to mention the changes that were just proposed. This land map is going to use the area of Route 60 that was supposed to ease our tax burdens. Now the Board of Supervisors is emphasizing residential changes that is going to use the infinite amount of water, the finite amount of water that we have available for the future for our quality economic opportunity. I cited some of the comprehensive plan infrastructure strategies that were in the comprehensive plan, and I think they're being disregarded tonight. Secure a long-term source of water with a decreased reliance on groundwater. Investigate the availability of off-stream storage, such as quarries. Investigate wholesale purchase of sewer and water. Continue pursuing cooperative efforts with surrounding counties to secure long-term water supplies. Investigate opportunities for long-term service water supplies. Also, before we get to the end here, we've got this 92% residential and 8% economic development ratio. I think we're putting the cart in front of the horse with what we're doing tonight. I'm also concerned about the infrastructure, the fire. We've already just went through that whole fire need money thing, and now we're going to have schools, fire, police, EMS. Anyways, I think we should be waiting for the opportunity of quality for economic development, not rushing. I just don't feel this urgency to approve the residential. Thank you. I, by the way, sent this in your emails.
Good evening. My name is Edward Fleming, F-L-E-M-I-N-G, and I work at 8000 West Park Drive in Tysons Corner, Virginia. I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for allowing us to make some comments this evening. I represent a company named Walton. I work for Walton, and we own or manage 74 acres on the south side of Route 60, of course, in the Route 60 corridor east, which in the 2010 plan, the property is designated as village residential. Walton is a family-owned business. We are a privately held, family-run business, and although we're a small, modest business, we do have experience and own a significant amount of property around the country. And I will tell you that I want to figure out how to be one of those other two landowners that made changes earlier in the day, because I'd like to make a change on that plan as well. You know, we pride ourselves on working with the municipality in the area where we own property. We can't come into a municipality and say we'd like to build this, because clearly in the end you guys have the authority and the power to permit or grant what we might want to or not want to develop, and so that is something that we pride ourselves on. We see this piece of property as somewhere where you can have a high quality, low density master plan that would allow for a residential community that has homes where teachers, firemen, policemen, military folks can live in and build a community in. We're not planning on building any multifamily here. That's not our plan. That's not what we do. We would prefer to have a high quality, low density community. And really what I think has happened is this comprehensive plan, which is supposed to be kind of a broad swath of here's what we think should happen in this area, has really turned into, unfortunately, drawing lines based on parcel lines. And that's not the philosophy you should take. If you're going to put a comprehensive plan together, you have to do it for a larger swath of property and not draw lines on parcel lines, because it leaves you vulnerable to making accusations of doing things for certain landowners and not doing things for other landowners. And so what you've done is you've kind of put me in a position where we're being treated differently than other landowners, and that's unfortunate. And my ability to develop this property actually is being taken away from us. And again, it's unfortunate that we've kind of come to this position, and I would urge you not to approve this comp plan. I would urge you to take a broader look at how similar properties and similar parcels should be treated similarly. And even before we bought this property, we did our due diligence. We came to town, we met with a county staff, and in the 2010 plan, we are village residential. We were supposed to be going to village commercial. And then at some point in time, very close to the end of the process, we have been now changed to an economic opportunity area. And again, I would encourage you not to approve this. I would be offered the opportunity to be like the two property owners who gave comments earlier today. I would like our piece of property to either be in the village residential or the village commercial designation. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk today.
Thanks. Please sign in. Be sure to sign in.
Catherine Waycaster, 1530 Greenberry Road. Madam Chair and distinguished members of the board, I will be brief. You cannot stop the passage of time, and you cannot stop progress. The question before us is, how do we manage growth in a way that retains Powhatan's rural character while providing diverse housing options in a fiscally responsible manner to our senior citizens, young folks, and those who want to live in Powhatan without the responsibility of maintaining property? The 2019 Comprehensive Plan addresses this question head-on. It is a commonsensical, well-thought-out plan that increases Powhatan's rural acreage and smartly designates areas close in where there's existing infrastructure for a diverse range of housing options, economic opportunities, and commerce. Designating the close-in Route 60 corridor and 7-Eleven Village area as growth areas will provide a balance of business and residential uses in a fiscally sustainable manner, while keeping a significant amount of traffic from traversing through Powhatan County, therefore reducing traffic congestion and providing more diverse housing options as requested by 65% of our residents. There's no way for everyone to get exactly what they want. I'm not getting everything I want, but I believe this plan represents a middle ground. It represents compromise, and I think it's a thoughtful way forward for development in our county. And I would like to thank our fine civil servants and the members of this board for crafting a plan that reflects the goals and desires of all the citizens in Powhatan County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jim Carver. I live at 4245 Steger Creek Drive. I did not plan to speak tonight, and I'll be brief. I've spoken on this topic before. I'll cover two areas. Number one, I am a proponent of returning the comprehensive plan to the pre-UDA requirements that I believe, to dovetail off a gentleman before me that spoke, I think is a little more general. And then as development wants to occur, they can come before the Planning Commission and make their case and drive it through that process. So I would concur with that. The second thing I'll address is I support Ms. Elliott's request. As I looked over and attended both of the public sessions reviewing the comprehensive plan and the land use map, my view of her property that she discussed didn't look like it was equitable in its layout on the plan. So I would support that request. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. I appreciate your service to our county, and thank you for deliberating on this matter. One thing that I've said before, and I've come before this group before about this plan, is that I do support that the county pass this comprehensive plan. As said before, it balances maintaining that rural character, but allowing growth in those clusters around the county that can provide the infrastructure, as other speakers have said, to support that economic growth. There will be economic growth in the county. The plan does address that. I will also say, though, however, that I would think that the board could consider whether, based upon the introductions today of new information, whether the board could split those out and vote and pass a comprehensive plan today, and let's move on. And then the board could consider whether to amend the comprehensive plan with other. There'll be other times when other folks come before this board and before the Planning Commission to look at ways to modify that plan. This isn't the last go-round for this plan, but to have it under your belt and to have it before our citizens as our map, as our future, is really important. So I hope you could consider that option. Thank you very much.
Thank
Mike, you need to state your name and your address.
Mike Ace at 3673 Old Buckingham Road, Powhatan. Thank you.
And did everybody remember to sign in? Oh.
Good evening, and thank you. Adam Woolman with Walton, representing our 74-acre parcel on Route 60 corridor, McLean, Virginia. Again, appreciate your time tonight. It's been a long, several-year process that's getting here tonight. Certainly surprised to have here 2 properties being changed a day of or within a day of this hearing. With the time frame on our parcel, our project went through the comp plan. It's currently 2010. It's village residential. It's gone through the Planning Commission recommendation for Village Center. We met with the county staff in May of 2000, I think it was about May of 2018, and all of a sudden there was a special work group. Our project was then moved into an economic opportunity zone. Then it was voted on by you all in December of 18 to move back into Village Center. And then recently, quite recently, it was requested to move back out of Village Residential or Village Center back into economic opportunity. So the process here is unsure what's occurred. You're all aware, I've not met with any of you individually, not any steak dinners, have not made any political statements or requests to anybody. We're trying to do our job to create goodwill and trust and build opportunities in the county. So we're not sure why at this final hour we're again changing things at the last minute. And this was written and submitted to you by email today, so I wasn't aware of the last 2 changes that are being proposed. I went through the history of what's occurred each of the few times I've testified, so I'm not going to bear you with all those details. But before you approve the comp plan this evening or in the near future, I hope you'll review comments in my submitted letter and consider making additional changes to return us back to a village residential or village center designation. And potentially with some limits like were proposed on some other properties at earlier meetings, whether it's a village center plan development with some maximums and minimums of commercial or density. Same thing if it was village residential, or if there's possibility of changing the economic opportunities preferred mix, which currently is heavily weighted towards the commercial use. And I don't know that that's the best opportunity to encourage economic growth in the county as proposed. So again, we do hope you'll take what's said tonight into consideration as you make your decision on this important planning document. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close this public comment period. And before we have discussion, we really are supposed to have a motion in order to have discussion. So is there a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I would like to make a motion, please.
All righty.
And can I reserve my comments after the motion?
Absolute, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the comprehensive plan with 2 amendments. The amendments that Mr. Pompey referenced earlier, the one map proposed change consisting of 26.2 acres to BC from commercial center, and the other proposed number 2 map change of 46 acre from rural residential from rural preservation to rural residential. Those are the 2 changes I would propose on the map. And those 2 changes to me are good zoning and subdivision planning processes. They're consistent with the land use that's around us, and the previous land use designations that were there. Further, I would say that we need to make sure that we realize that this document is not, this land use map plan is not a zoning map. It's a land use map plan that helps designate and gives vision, as some people have mentioned tonight. Standards and conditions and rezonings will take place, and that is when the public gets its opportunity to weigh in on specific projects and the requirements those projects will have to meet going forward. Thank you.
All right, is there a
Was that all-
second?
Was that all part of the motion?
I think so.
Well, the motion is to have the two changes adopted and through the comprehensive plan as presented. And I tell you what, I will go ahead and make a few other comments. This comprehensive plan is consistent with the vision statement. The bottom paragraph on page 9 of the comprehensive plan says the mixed-use clusters will provide dynamic economic development opportunities. In the last line, it says will provide diverse housing options to complete single-family uses that will continue to be prevalent in rural areas. Single-family uses. You flip over to the next page, is that Powhatan will have a land use pattern dominated by rural character. 95% of the county is still in rural character, 5% in any type of clustering. It says further, with high quality and economically productive mixed-use development at clearly defined locations. This is in the growth areas we're talking about here, any densities, which are served or planned to be served by utilities and adequate transportation infrastructure. It says housing. Powhatan will have a diverse range of housing that provides living opportunities for residents of all stages of their lives. Yeah, I could go on and on the reasons I think it's a good comprehensive plan. It reduced the plan that we received from the Planning Commission in December of 2017 from 93% almost, 92.5%, excuse me, of rural areas and 7.7% in growth areas to 95% rural, 5% growth areas. So it's reduced the amount of designation you can have for tighter density. And please, let's remember that tight density does not mean rental homes or apartments. It could mean patio homes. It could mean zero lot lines. It could mean aging population housing. There's a gentleman who lives in our county, and I don't think he'll mind me using his name, Bruce Lewis, who contacted me after living in the county for 30-plus years. He says, I have no place to go to, Billy. I need a place. I have a church in Powhatan. My doctor's in Powhatan, and I'm ready to transition off of my property I have now into something that will meet our needs in the future. We are not providing for those needs at this time. I think this plan gives us the ability to do that and capture and use the infrastructure investment we currently have. Thank you.
Madam Chair, have we have a second on the question?
That's what I'm trying to get to that.
Well, for future protocol, I think you need to get the second before you actually had the discussion just now with Mr. Melton's comments.
Well, we'll work on that moving forward. Is there a second to this motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Williams, if you would like to make comments, you're free to do so.
No, I wasn't worried about my comments. I was worried about the way we were proceeding. That was the reason I spoke.
Well, I'll be glad to make them again if somebody wants me to.
No, that's not necessary.
Any other comments? All righty.
Well, I'll make a comment. I haven't planned to make any comments since I spoke to this previously, and everybody's well aware of what my position is. But in reality, at the end of the day, this is a development business plan that we have to live with going forward. Now, my client has always been Powhatan County, looking after what is in the best interest of this county. As I brought forward last time when we had this discussion, you've got a 92-8 imbalance in this county. 92 is your residential real estate, 8 is your commercial. And as some of the speakers have said tonight, when we did the water and sewer, when the supervisors agreed to put that in, and let me comment on that, because even when we did the water and sewer, we didn't do it the way we should have done it. We should have created a service district in ad valorem so that all the taxpayers wouldn't be sharing the burden that we're sharing today. But that said, the plan was full steam ahead. Powhatan County was going to have economic development. If you go back and poll the supervisors back then, they said, we're doing this for commercial, we're not doing it for residential. I know my predecessor on the board, Roy Harrison, he even warned about putting water and sewer in places where you didn't want it to go. So all the fears back then are now coming to light. Now, I talked about water and the fact that we've got a finite amount of water in this county because we were going to use Cobb's Creek as our source of long-term water for the county. Now, we're no longer in Cobb's Creek. So right now, we're dependent on Chesterfield County for our water supply. As I said last time, we're in an agreement where we're getting $572,000 from Chesterfield. We're using approximately $200,000. We're set to transfer $55,000 down to Founder's Bridge, which leaves us with 317,000 gallons for our long-term water supply. Just recently, we've had 2 developers come in. One has held a community meeting. The other one is getting ready to hold a community meeting. And if they get the maximum number of residential units that they are looking at, that would be an additional 349 units along Route 60. Now, each residential unit has a capacity of 350 gallons. So when you do the math, those 2 developments, if they come to fruition, will decrease that 317,000 by a third. By a third. So now you're at something less than 200,000 for your long-term water supply in this county. Now, one of the things I didn't talk about last time was traffic. Now, we mentioned the fact that they're doing a corridor study on Route 60 because they're concerned about what? Traffic being able to move down Route 60. Now, any of you have been up in the morning at 7:30 or been on Route 60 at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you know the crossovers don't even work. Now, in the morning, if you're lucky enough going into Richmond and you get through the Stave Mill stoplight with one iteration, you're going to go 25 to 35 miles an hour till you get to Old 100 Road. Then once you get through Old 100 Road, traffic picks up again. And then you hit 288 going to Goochland, you go back down to 25 miles an hour. So yes, transportation is important to us because we have always been the workforce for the Richmond region. We've always got up in the morning, we drove to Reynolds, we drove to DuPont, Philip Morris, Carson's old employer. So we know where the jobs are. The jobs aren't in Powhatan County. So we've got to get in and out of this county. Now, these developments that you're seeing coming in, they're on the north side of Route 60, which means you're going to have to make a right turn out, go west, and then make a U-turn to come back to get into Richmond. Now, that's going to work real well in the mornings, you know, with the crossovers and peak hours. It's not going to work. So we were creating a problem. You already know what it's like when we have an accident, for example, on 7-Eleven, for example. You'll see people try to get over to Road 60. They'll use Page Road. They'll get on Mannequin Road and they'll use Page. You know it's an accident. If you're Nelson Barris and you're sitting at the corner, you at Old Powhatan Estates, you know there's been an accident because you can see the traffic. So either one of those roads, if you have an accident, it affects the other road. So your main 2 arteries, 60 and Route 7-Eleven, they serve as the means by which we get in and out of this county. And if we stick a cork in the bottle down there at the county line with high-density residential with trip generation. VDOT estimates 10 trips per residential unit. So if you've got 349 units coming on board, that's 3,449 trips to where you've already got the highest traffic counts in the county, 34,000 down there. So all the pieces have to fit together, folks, and that's what a comprehensive plan is supposed to do. It's supposed to take into account your residential, your commercial balances. It's supposed to take in traffic. It's supposed to be looking at economic income. It's to look at all those things. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments? All righty. That being said, we have a motion and a second on the floor, and this is roll call, I assume.
No.
Mr. Melton votes yes.
Was that me? Yes.
Aye. All righty. Moving on to the next ordinance, 2019-26. It's a ordinance for a golf cart and utility vehicle operation in the courthouse village. Who is presenting this one?
I'll take a stab at that.
Okay.
Madam Chairman. It's come to our attention that there are citizens who live in the courthouse village area who have an interest in operating a golf cart or light utility vehicle to get around. I think we've all probably come across that type of arrangement, perhaps at a resort-type area, perhaps a beach community or golf community. And we are seeing interest in that option here. There are state laws relating to highway safety that control how that might be done. May only be done on areas designated by the Board of Supervisors, and these streets must be posted at 25 miles per hour by the Virginia Department of Transportation, 25 or below. So as it stands, this would affect Old Buckingham Road, essentially from roughly the circle in front of administration where that 25 sign is posted, through the village to where the 25 zone ends. I think it becomes 35 before you get to Man Road. So we have sort of that area, and then there are side streets that this would also apply to, but only once those were posted by VDOT. So we're working to identify the sections that need signs posted, but this would get us sort of started down that pathway to create that opportunity, and that's what the nature of this ordinance is, and we appreciate the sheriff for his involvement and for the county attorney for getting this drafted for us.
I have one. So this ordinance is only going to cover where it is currently posted at 25, that little stretch of the village.
What the ordinance said, we identify pretty much all of the ordinance. We say the interior roads in Scottsville, General Scott Boulevard, Old Homestead, we list all of it, but it won't become effective until they get posted at 25.
So Skaggs, Rawson, Tillman, help me here, Woody. What else we got? Courthouse Tavern Lane, Yates Lane.
Marion Harlan.
They're on page 365 of the agenda.
Oh, I didn't scroll far enough. Gotcha.
Has all of the, page 365 at the very bottom, it's labeled page 204, it's 74-124.
Okay, so all the roads in Scottville, they're all listed out. Side roads located in the Powhatan Village area, which is Yates Lane, Marion Harlan Lane, Tillman. So we did forget Courthouse Tavern. What is that, road or lane, Woody? Courthouse Lane, I think. Then Rawson. Skaggs, we need Skaggs.
Skaggs is number 4.
Okay. I think that's it. Rawson, yep, Sigourney, got Sigourney.
Are we sure those are 25-mile-an-hour roads?
Well, I can't imagine Courthouse Tavern Lane it, and it's right on the other side of, I mean, if Marion Harlan is, it's on the other side of the courthouse. It's the one by the in between the tavern and the courthouse. I just don't want to leave out one little road. Somebody get arrested in their golf cart. And then so can you not drive down to the Y? You have to stop where it turns.
So that's correct. Just in response to your first question, last time I was on Virginia Route 300, which is what goes,
Scottville.
Goes into.
Comes into the village from Route 60.
Right.
Madam Chair, the Y road is 35 miles an hour.
And that's right. Man is 35.
I have requested speed study on that, and I think they are doing that. I did request a speed study to try to get the village from basically the Wells Fargo Bank to the entrance to the park lowered to 25, and they would not do that. So one of my questions all along has been, if that section of Old Buckingham Road does not get to 25 miles an hour, it really kind of bothers me that you would then go drive from a portion of Old Buckingham Road. So it really doesn't make sense unless VDOT's going to work with us. And I know the sheriff and I have had some conversations about that. He's talked with VDOT, and I think there's a little bit of wiggle room that possibly they may work with us on this. That if that doesn't go to 25, then to me, I don't support doing unless the entire section from basically the roundabout west to the entrance to the park goes to 25.
It is kind of
That's my
crazy
thoughts.
that Man Road is 35 with all those kids running around.
Yeah, I hope that, and I don't mean this bad, when you are there and people are running late for the baseball games because the game started 6:15, I think sometimes they're pushing the 35. So, I know VDOT was going to look into that. So,
Well,
I know this is something that's been asked. I would possibly like to defer this for another 30 days until we can really sit down with VDOT. And we have a new resident engineer who many of us are going to meet around the 1st of July and ask, is this something that's even going to be feasible from the aspect of reducing the speed limit along, Old Buckingham Road there, and then in any other roads that are not currently 25 that would be listed on this list.
Well, Mr. Melton, one thing we could do is go ahead and, progress is a good thing, right? So at least we could get some golf cart movement from the homes in Scottville down to the county seat or to church on Sunday or down to the village pool, some things like that. I mean, we are assuming everybody wants to go to the Y or the library or the baseball field, but this is still a big chunk of the village. And Mr. Chardon would like to make a comment.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, just to your point, Mr. Chairman, in our discussions with VDOT, they said in doing the speed study, one reason they're not doing one now, or they wouldn't recommend one now, is they cannot in their speed study consider a potential future scenario, so they can't consider in that there might be golf carts there.
Right.
If you approve this section now, then when they do a speed study, it will consider the fact that there's golf carts mixing with that traffic. So it might take that to get the next section done.
Could you hear that, Mr. Melton?
He breaks up a little bit.
Basically, he indicated that VDOT will not do a speed study now based on something which may happen in the future, i.e. golf carts. So perhaps if we go ahead and pass this now, they will then in turn look at it as a result. And we could close the loop. But
How are people going to know, Madam Chair, that they can't drive to the Y? If they get in their golf cart and they get accustomed to driving around, and they might have just assumed.
Right. I think that communication, we could certainly, send a letter, we could have a town hall meeting, signage,
Golf carts not allowed?
something like that,
I'm just bringing it
Yeah,
up because
yeah.
if you
It-
get
it will
used to
be an
going up,
issue.
I could see somebody doing that.
Absolutely. So I think that we could, the sheriff seems to feel confident that the enforcement of it would be something he could manage. It'd be really nice to slow people down going through the village anyway, so.
Yep.
I'd love to see a heavy, heavy presence in the village. So, good point, though, and let's be sure to share that with the sheriff and the rest of the sheriff's office. Okay. Go, Ms.
We have a public hearing on this, correct?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
So we will open a public hearing now for anybody that would like to speak on this matter. Seeing no comments, we will close it. Now we need a motion. Would anybody, your district, Mr. Melton?
I'm a little, as long as so what I heard from you was that the speed studies will be issued if this ordinance is passed, and then if they're not reduced, then I guess we could revisit this thing. I don't want to create a bunch of nightmares for people wondering whether they can drive, they have to turn around and cut down another road to get somewhere. But I'm going to go ahead, and Brad has talked to me extensively about this, our county sheriff, and go ahead and make a motion that we approve ordinance 2019-26.
All right, I'll second that. We'll do a roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, our final public hearing of the night is ordinance 2019-19.
All right, I'll give a quick overview of this particular item. Case number 19-06-AZ is a request by Powhatan County to amend section 68-220 of the subdivision ordinance, which establishes standards for conservation subdivisions, which are also commonly known as cluster subdivisions. The proposed amendment would remove requirements for a conservation design plan, allow conservation subdivisions within all large lot rural districts, which includes agricultural 20, agricultural 10, rural residential, and rural residential 5. It would also allow conservation subdivisions within the R2 zoning district. It reduces the minimum size of conservation subdivisions in certain instances. It reduces the minimum size and width of lots in conservation subdivisions. It reduces the minimum yard depths within conservation subdivisions, modifies permitted density bonuses, requires perimeter buffers adjacent to certain site features, requires lots to access an internal road network, requires lots of a certain size to be within a certain distance of open space. It modifies standards regarding which features must be preserved within the conservation areas, and it includes cross-references to the zoning ordinance to demonstrate the relationship between the zoning and subdivision ordinances when it comes to conservation subdivisions. The intent of this amendment is to provide greater flexibility when designing conservation subdivisions, while helping ensure that the layout of these developments adequately protects the rural character of surrounding areas. The comprehensive plan encourages the use of cluster subdivisions so that the houses are clustered on one portion of the site, and most of the site, the majority of it, remains permanently protected open space. This issue was discussed by the Planning Commission at workshops on September 4th, 2018 and February 5th, 2019. At its meeting on April 2nd, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this request with a vote of 5-0. This case was deferred from the Board of Supervisors meeting on April 24th, 2019, and it was discussed at your workshop on May 9th, 2019. Again, the Planning Commission recommends approval of this amendment to the subdivision ordinance, as does the Department of Community Development.
All righty. So any questions of staff? All right, we'll open a public hearing on this matter. Would anybody like to speak to this? Seeing nobody, we will close it. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Mr. Melton, you still in there?
I'm still here. I'm just.
All right.
I I had one quick question, staff. I apologize. I had the mute button on. I didn't want anybody hearing my grandkids screaming. But Andrew, I'm sorry to ask. So just on 5A, for my edification a little bit, the minimum lot size was 2 acres for this. Now it's saying it's 40,000 square feet if you do not have public and water, and 15,000 square feet if you have public water, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so how many acres would be, or how many quarters acres, or eighth of an acre, or half an acre is 40,000 square feet?
40,000 square feet is about 1 acre.
About 1 acre. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Nope.
That's it.
Okay. All righty. Well, then we have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and move to a vote.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All righty, this brings us to our final public comment period. Again, we invite you to share your thoughts. Remember, it's not a forum for political campaigning, promoting a business, or personal attacks. Please keep your comments to the issues that this board has responsibility over. Comments limited to 3 minutes if speaking as an individual, and 5 if you are representing a group that you identify at the onset. Please come on down and sign in. No comments. All righty. We will close this public comment period, and that takes us to county attorney comments,
No comments, Madam Chairman.
county administrator comments.
Just very briefly, just want to let the board know that we are moving forward to close on the refinancing. That all seems to be coming together, and we're targeting the 28th next week. And then be advised that we will be, and I think I mentioned this at our last meeting, doing a little work in this room over the break to improve the monitors so that our audience can see a little better. They'll be a little larger, and we'll have one larger one in the back, and hopefully that will improve everybody's ability to participate. We will also be replacing the sound equipment and give board members access to a switch to turn the microphones on and off. And we hope to get these things taken care of before your next meeting, which will be July 29th, Monday. And so I wish everybody a safe and enjoyable summer break.
And I believe are the county offices closed on the 4th and the 5th now that the state added a day?
Thank you for mentioning that. The governor did add one additional holiday day to the July 4th, or I should say Independence Day celebration. So we'll be celebrating Independence Day on both the 4th and the 5th. The offices will be closed.
All righty, any board comments? All right, there being none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for being here.